There we go. Are we live? What's happening here? Okay, I think I have a picture. Good evening, guys. Gosh, what is tonight? It's 8 o'clock. I know that. I just walked into the webinar room and we have apparently the 28th of May. Interesting. I always have to look at the clock or at some kind of a calendar to orient me. Usually I'm out and about and doing a lot of things, and then so hang on, you got to do something else right now. You know the feeling. Anyway, my name is Eric. It's nice to meet you guys. We're going to do another webinar tonight. It's going to be on stress and anxiety. Now, as you can probably tell by my accent, we're doing this from Ireland. We're doing this from Dublin. However, me myself, I'm not Irish. I'm Dutch. I was born and raised in the Netherlands. I left my country about 25 years ago. Went to the Caribbean for about 10 years. Lovely life, a lot of beach. Spent some time in Venezuela and Mexico. Later on came back, lived in Scandinavia for a while. Then went down to Belgium. Did a little back and forth kind of, trips. And actually wound up here in Ireland 3 years ago. One of my passions is that I really like to pass on information that has helped me. And that's also the kind of information that I like to relay to others because I see that it actually works. Right, so that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm actually want to share, impart some data with you. So this is about stress and anxiety. There's another webinar basically following on tonight's topic, which is all about the narcissistic personality. Now, bet you that person can actually give you a lot of stress. Today, we're going to take more rudimentary approach, very, very simple approach, with the idea to give you some tips and tricks, things that you can do, which are quite easy to do, that you may find actually quite helpful to either help yourself or somebody else. Now, we like to do questions. So basically just to orient you, make sure that you get the full concept. And my first question tonight is just an orientation type of question is, where are you guys from? So I know we have a number of people here in the chat. We're live on Zoom, we're live on Facebook, on Instagram, even on YouTube, on 4 platforms at the same time. But I'm very curious where you guys are from. And maybe there is a particular reason why you chose this webinar tonight that you wanted to attend. So if you're a very fast typer, you may want to type that in as well. I hope the sound is okay. I hope the sight, the vision is okay. I'm here in the studio. It seems to be a little bit grayish, but maybe for you guys it's just all right. Let me know if there's anything that we need to adjust. All right, so let's see. We have Action Dami. That's nice to meet you. I think it's the first time, yeah? Then we got Alexia Eck. Welcome, Alexia. Bernadette. I think, Bernadette, didn't we have a little chat there going on Meetup? Is that right? Anyway, it's nice to see you. Then we got Cenk. Cenk. And now I have to take a good look. El Birlik. I hope that's a correct pronunciation, Cenk. And then let's see. Welcome, by the way. And we got Christine Broughton. Welcome, Christine. We got Dara Santos, Elena Giaietti. I hope I got that right, Dara. I'm sorry. I hope I got that right, Elena. And we got James. Let's see, Jojo, Kenga Bajer, Maria V, Nicole Bruce, Pete Felton, Rosa Mourinho, Ridger Wu, Sally Lee, Sarah Eccleston, beautiful, all right, and Shefali Kana. All right, guys, that's great to have you. Absolutely fantastic. A lot of exotic names. Can you imagine? Well, I lived in the Caribbean and I had all these exotic names around me all the time. So let's see what is going on in the chat. So you guys have discovered the chat. That is fantastic. Feel free to ask any question in between. I got Pavel here, my colleague, and should you have any questions, he is there to help you out. All right, good. So we got London, Munich. So we haben auch Leute von Deutschland. Then we have Eastbourne, we have Milano, que bien. So no parlo italiano. And then we got Wales. Okay, I choose this webinar as I suffer chronic stress. All right, Sarah, thank you very much for that answer. That's really appreciated. Then we got Nicole. Okay, American, but living in the UK. That's great. Rosa uit Rotterdam. Fantastisch. All right. And we got Christine. Hello all. Southend on Sea. Portsmouth. Okay, that is great, guys. Right. All right. So stress and anxiety. Just for you to know, we actually do webinars on the mind. Yeah, as you can imagine, stress has got to do everything with the mind. There's follow what's happening on Meetup and on Eventbrite, because we do that a lot. A full explanation on what is the mind, how does it work, how does it hold you back. Yeah, cautious stress. There's something deep hidden inside us that actually produces that. Yeah, but that's not the topic of tonight. Like I said, we're going to keep it very, very rudimentary. I actually want to start with a definition, and the first definition is the definition of stress itself. So, Pavel, maybe you can help me, and there it goes. So that word came about roughly in the year 1300 from French, stress, which means hardship, adversity, constraining or compelling force or pressure. In other words, we're dealing with a force or a pressure. There's something pressing down on you or pressing against you, right? This is what we feel when we're stressed. Yeah, that's where the word is coming from. Yeah, and that even applies to mechanics. Yeah, like for example, well, let's say metals which are under stress and they're under a lot of pressure, right? Which is a force. All right. So that's the meaning of the word. It came from Latin strictus, meaning compressed. All right. Now let's go to the next definition, which is anxiety. And all right, it's fine. It's fine with the picture, Pablo. Don't worry. I can actually read what it says. It says anxiety. That word came about in circa 1520. Just behind my picture, you see the word apprehension. Apprehension caused by danger, misfortune, or error. Uneasiness of the mind, respecting some uncertainty, a restless dread of some evil. Yeah. So it's this worry that something bad might actually happen to you. That's coming from Latin anxietatem. All right, now, having covered just that, you can take the quote away, Pavel, all fine. Having covered just that, I have a question for you guys. And it's a very, very simple question, but it's so overlooked, you might even find it a bit hard to answer. And the question is, what is the most basic, the most fundamental goal that you have in life? So pop that in the chat. What is the most basic, the most fundamental goal that you have in your life? The most basic, most fundamental goal. I'm just going to wipe out that little arrow here. Okay, to be happy. Right. All right, then we got Julia here, survival. Okay, so we got a whole bunch of people who would actually say happiness. All right, so we got happiness, we got survival, we got survive, and there we say, all right, Sally says to live a better version of myself. Okay, Akshan says to do the best for society and our family. That is, I love that, it's fantastic. Okay, Raju says enjoy the journey of life. Dara says peace. Alexia, be seen. All right, to enjoy my life despite chronic illness from Sarah. All right, guys. So actually, two of you had it really right, and everybody else is coming very, very, very close. The most basic, the most fundamental goal that you have in life is actually survive. Must be something wrong with my markers tonight. Let me see. Let me see if I can find a better one quickly. Where have it? Maybe I actually took the wrong box. That is totally possible. Let's find out quickly. Yeah, all right. Good. So the word is actually survive. That is the most basic, the most fundamental thing the most fundamental goal that you're trying to achieve, right? That you're trying to pursue. Now, what does that mean? Because we can actually break down this word survive. It actually consists of two parts. Sur comes from super. And vive, as in vivre, in French, that means live. Now, if we look up super, then we actually mean above, or we mean above or beyond. In other words, to live above or beyond certain standards. Okay, so what does that mean, right? Well, that means basically, it means affluence. In order to survive, you need affluence. If you have a shelter that's just good for one day, which is, for example, your house, and it's about to collapse next week, that wouldn't really help you to survive, right? You need a shelter that would be durable for at least half a century, for example. Yeah, that would mean like to live above and beyond a certain standard. If you have food, a ration just for a couple of days, or maybe a week, well, there's not much survival in that, right? So in other words, you need to have a cellar full of food. You need to have an abundance. So survival has got everything to do with creating that abundance, knowing that at all times you actually have enough shelter, enough protection, enough food, enough health, enough pleasure, enough happiness, and so on, right? I'm just going to put the markers away that don't function. Now, so that actually means that we can go in two directions in life, right? We can go into, I'm sorry, I'm just going to wipe out something again. We can go into the direction of surviving, or we can go into the direction of succumbing. Now, to survive means to carry on living. To succumb basically means to give up and die. Right? So these two directions are the directions that we have in life. So, if you have some success, that means your survival just improved a little bit. If you have been suffering from a little defeat, even though it was a little or a small defeat, we're moving into the direction of succumbing. All right, good. So now, let's say we watch the news. We open the newspaper, right? And the newspaper mentions something about war. Now it mentions something about, let's say, curfew, pandemic. And then it says something about inflation. And it says something about, I don't know, climate. And it goes on with unemployment and what have you. Yeah. So what do all these messages, what do they refer to? Do they refer to survive or do they refer to succumb? What do you think is actually the message behind that kind of news? All right, so Sarah here says succumb. All right, succumb. Okay, Now, so let's change the arrows here, all right? So we have a war going on, which is going into the direction of succumbing, right? Epidemic going on is into a direction of succumbing. Inflation, joblessness, unemployment, bad economy, what have you, is all succumbing. So now you see what these factors actually do. We go back to the first definition, and that definition said stress, which is a pressure, right? You're under stress because you're under pressure. You're under pressure because the environment tries to tell you that you cannot survive. The environment is trying to tell you it's impossible to survive. Yeah, Sarah, is that okay? It's succumb because it's all negative. Yeah. All right, now, right away, maybe you observe something. You probably observed this already a long time ago. Have you noticed, for example, that when you watch the news or when you read the newspaper, that it changes your mood? Have you observed that? If you observed that, please put something in the chat. Have you observed that when you watch the news, read some newspapers, that your mood changes? I'm very curious if you guys have noticed this. Maybe you noticed it not in yourself, but maybe you noticed it in somebody else. All right, so we got a yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. All right, now there's a very, very interesting thing going on here. And that feeling that you can make it in life is very important. Likewise, you can have the feeling that you're not going to make it. Right? And we don't want to have that feeling. As long as you have the feeling that you're on your way to success, you will be positive. You will have energy. You will find it easy to get out of your bed. You'll find it easy to walk briskly and swiftly and get a lot of things done. But when you get into the mindset that it's almost impossible, you might go into a mindset of, why even try? Nothing can be done about it anyway. Yeah, so I'm going to read you a little quote right now. By the way, by the end of the evening, I'm going to offer you a very, very interesting, I'm going to promote, I'm actually going to go to promote a book, yeah, which is actually a very, very helpful tool to raise your survival potential. Yeah, so wait till the end of the webinar. But in the meantime, before we get there, I'm going to give you a little quote here. So many people are not only sure that the environment is dangerous, but they're also seeing that it seems to be growing more dangerous every day. And for many people, it is more of a challenge than they feel they can deal with, right? So when you hear all that bad news, when you take it in, it can become too much. Right? For many a person, it feels like that's more that I can deal with, right? Now, here's the kicker. The fact of the matter is that the environment is made to appear much more dangerous than it actually is. That is the real thing that is going on here. The environment is actually made to appear way more dangerous than it actually is. Now, how is that? How is that? So a great many people are professional makers of the dangerous environment. A lot of people actually have a business in making a dangerous environment. So this includes professions which require a dangerous environment for their existence. You know, such as, for example, a politician, a policeman, a newspaperman, and others. So such people sell a dangerous environment. Yeah? They feel that if they couldn't sell that dangerous environment, they would go broke. In other words, it is a business model. It's a business model. Yeah? Does that make some sense? But some people actually are makers, producers of the dangerous environment, and they make the environment seem to be much worse than it really is. Yeah? Sarah, was that your last comment? That's how I feel at times. Is that already your answer? I have some trouble catching up with what you guys type. All right, good. All right, good. So that's why we got that newspaper thing, yeah. So an obvious example can be seen in newspapers. Yeah. For example, there's no good news stories, or there's hardly any good news stories. All the good news stories would actually tell you survival is easy as pie, right? But they don't tell you that. Instead, they engage in telling you the opposite. It's hardly possible to survive. So they basically report bad news, disasters, these kind of things, and they ignore the good things. Right? Okay. Welome, what is the thinking behind making a dangerous environment? Yes, thank you for that question. We're gonna get to that. Basically, I'm gonna answer that question fully next week in the next webinar. Pavel, maybe you can help me out because I can see that the battery is running low, it seems. Maybe there's a connection here. No, here on my laptop. Pavel? Okay, well, it doesn't say so here. Anyway, all right, now maybe you can help me then with the next picture, which is the newspaper guy. Let me see if that connection there is okay. Good. All right. I'm just going to change that quickly, see if that works. No, it doesn't work. Good. All right. So what do we see here? Yeah, that seems to be plugged in now. All right. Rubber band around it. It's fantastic. All right. My colleague is trying to help me out here and handle it. I want to make sure my laptop, doesn't succumb on me before the end of the webinar. All right, good. So what do we see in the picture? Yeah, we see on the left-hand side, that guy is actually walking over to a bench in the park. Yeah, he seems to be quite happy. And then what is actually happening is that he picks up that newspaper, right? And now he's getting all these images, right? All that images. And so obviously that has a very, very bad effect on his mindset, right? So that effect can be very, very overwhelming for an individual. It's an overwhelm. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff to deal with for a single individual, right? All right, now, here's a question. What do you think happens? What do you think happens to you when you find the environment overwhelming? When you get all that bad news, what do you think is happening when you find the environment to be overwhelming? Yeah, all right, guys. So what do you think happens to you, when you find that the environment is just overwhelming? You get too much bad news. You get too many bad signals coming your way. Willow me. It becomes impossible to sleep. Sarah, I'm going to go into a freak out mode. Yeah, going to panic. Julia, depression. Right? Ashken, be aware. Right? Be aware. Yeah. Watch out. Something bigger might come your way. You become stressed. All right. So here's what is happening when we are in a condition. Just imagine this is not here. Yeah, I'm just drawing a picture here. Imagine that you're in this condition where you are taking initiative and you are making life. Yeah, you're in this position where you make things happen. You make life. But when all that stuff comes down on you, you start to have the feeling that things start to happen to you. And life makes you. So in other words, from being responsible, taking initiative, being able to do things, you're going to collapse to feeling cornered. In other words, here you're on the causative side of life, making things happen. You are cause. And you dwindle down to going to the receiving side of life, where life makes you, and you're on the effect side. So when all that becomes too overwhelming, you feel that you're not able to make life as you want it. You simply feel that you're not able to make life as you want it, right? You're going to have a feeling that life is just pushing you around. Now remember, this is actually a mindset. Yeah, it is not necessarily true. It doesn't have to be necessarily true. It is just your state of mind that you are in. And this is the interesting part, because that is something that we can do something about. We can actually improve that state of mind. So, when you think that the whole environment is overwhelming, I'm going to read that out. For example, your health can be affected. Well, here we have that stress, right? These two opposing forces. Now, stress on the body there, yeah, it would make your body go out of balance. This is a balance here, your body would just go out of balance. In other words, we got stress, and then your body goes out of balance, and your health is going to be affected, yeah? Your activity is going to be affected, because, you know, when your body is affected, your activities get affected as well. And your desire to do well in life will be jeopardized. Yeah. This all depends on your mindset, how dangerous the environment is. Simple example, let's say you just graduated, and now you feel like, I'm going to get myself a good job. And when you look in the newspapers to see if you find any advertising for jobs, maybe you're looking for specific companies, and then you happen to read this whole article about layoffs and unemployment. There you had it. You had this bright idea, you're going to find a job. You read the wrong article. What's going to be the outcome now? Are you still going to pursue that job? Or could it just be that that bad article just changed your mind? And you figured, what's the use? All right? So we're dealing with mindset. All right. Now, so some tips. What can you do? What can you do? It's a very, very simple tip. It's a very, very inexpensive tip. Well, here's one thing that you could do. One thing you could do is, for example, you don't follow the news, and you don't read the newspapers for, let's say, 2 weeks. If you want to test it out, You say, you know what? I'm not going to read the newspapers for 2 weeks, and I'm going to see how I feel. I'm going to put things to the test again. After that, I'm going to read the newspaper for a week and see how I feel. It's a very, very inexpensive test, but it's a test you can do. You can say, you know what? I'm not going to follow any news or read any newspapers. I'm going to stay away from all that and see actually how it affects my mind. That is just a very, very simple tip. This is something you can, anybody can think of, right? Because you've probably observed that, right? But actually what it results in is that you're going to start to feel better because you're not bombarded with negativity. So you're going to start to feel better. Now, I can give you a little example of this. Let me just wipe this out. So let's say here we have Joe. Joe's got one of these American mailboxes on a pole, right? In the morning he walks over to his mailbox and he finds a letter. And it's got very, very, very positive news. What is going to happen with Joe's emotions? What do you guys think is going to happen with Joe's emotions? Allow me to have a sip of my water. Curious about your answer. Joe walks over the mailbox, gets some very good news. What is going to happen to his emotion? Pop something in the chat. You get good news, for example. Now, your emotional state might change. What's going to happen to your emotional state? All right. Julie says he becomes happy. Okay. So, in other words, his emotion, as we speak, is going up. Yeah, he'll be happy, smiling. Now, let's put the mailbox over here now. So, the next day, Joe walks over to the mailbox again, and he gets some very bad news, very negative news. What is going to happen to Joe's emotion? Right, in the meantime, we have Wilome, positive energy, feeling of motivation. All right, so now with the bad news, Julia says he gets into a bad mood. All right. In other words, we get this. We get that. Now, that is up and down, right? So, as you can see, this is the result that Joe is doing in life. His life is doing ups and downs. This is what most people do in life. In life, they do their ups and downs. Yeah? Now, when this would continue to happen in some way, you could focus on the things that you really want to do in life. You could focus on goals. You could focus on things that you want to achieve. But if then the bad news kicks in, you're going to lose all that and you're going to go into a down. Next week, with the anatomy of the antisocial individual, who is a specialist to make that happen, we're going to have a deeper look into that thing. Yeah, but suffice to say, right now, this is what we see people doing in life, potentially yourself as well, right? Now, so we kind of like want to stay on this side, right? We tend to eliminate this for the moment. Now, so there's another thing that we can do. We just said, okay, you know what? We can eliminate some of that, for example, by not reading the news. For example, by not watching TV. Yeah, like there might be certain talk shows that really piss you off, get you in a bad mood. Well, don't do them. Might be certain news channels, right, that cause you to have a bad mood. So don't watch them. Simple as that. Don't watch and don't read that negativity. All right, now the next thing we can do is actually take a walk. And Pavel is gonna, that is actually tip 2. Take a walk. I'm gonna wipe this out and basically put something else there in a moment. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. What do we see in this picture? What we tend to do is we tend to introvert a lot, which is to look inside our mind all the time. Yeah. And what we really need to do is to look outward. That will be called extroversion. Extroversion is to look outside, and introversion, the word actually says it itself, is to look inside. Now, if you look inside, you notice you're never going to find the answers. You just keep on, you know, running on that treadmill. So it's really important that we extrovert, we look outside. That actually makes us more bright. We brighten up. Now, what is the drill here? Here's this very specific drill. We're not going to take a walk just for the sake of walking, or just for the sake of taking a walk. We're taking a walk with the purpose to look. So if you feel you're really overwhelmed, you're in a bad mood, maybe you're grumpy, you're sad, you feel hopeless, you have a lack of energy, you're so tense, you're overthinking a lot, that all means that you're absorbed by what's going on in your mind. You're introverted. So what we need to do is to extrovert. The drill, the exercise that you do here is you take a walk and you look. You look at things without thinking. You don't take a walk and you contemplate what has been happening during the day at work or with your partner or whatever. You basically go out and you observe and you say, oh, that's a beautiful building over there. It's got wide windows. That's a fantastic pine tree. Okay. I see a BMW over there. That is a UK license plate. The woman's got a nice dress. Seems to be a new road over here. You just walk and you look. You don't allow yourself really to think or to contemplate what has been happening today. Now, while you actually take that walk, you might actually go through a period of exhaustion and then actually come out of it and feel a whole lot brighter. During that period of exhaustion, you're running out all these mental buildups that you have been accumulating over the last day or days perhaps. You're kind of like running it out mentally. So you have to go through that. It's just like, well, let's say, if you take away a barrier, you're going to get some freedom in return. It's a philosophical kind of a thing. If you handle something like a big obstacle, and you really handle it, you're going to get some freedom in return. And here, when you take a walk and you just simply force yourself to look, and you look, and you look, and you don't allow yourself to think what has been happening over the day. In other words, you keep that worry away. You just look. You see a building, you see another building, you see a tree, you see another tree, you see a car, you see a road, you see a side road, you see a crossing, you see a train, and so on. You just look. And that is the whole drill. Now, when you're sad, when you're angry, when you're upset, when you're disappointed, when you're hopeless, when you're in whatever mood, low energy, this is a fantastic drill. It's very recommendable. You will actually see the results right away. Now, I just wanted to give you a little bit more on that introversion and extroversion kind of a thing. So our mind makes recordings. Let's say these are all pictures, yeah? If I would say, think of primary school, you get a picture. If I would say, think of a pet that you once had, you get a picture. If I would say, well, I don't know, think about the classroom, yeah? You get a picture. Your mind makes pictures. So let's say during the day, all kinds of things happened. Let's say you were a waitress, or you're a waiter. A waiter, waitress, right? Let's say you ended your shift and during the day you had 9 compliments. People were like super happy with your service. But there was one moaner, one complainer, right? And all these bad remarks, nothing was good, and give you a hard time. You have a recording of that, which is one of these bad experiences, right? So, and that has some charge on it. It's like, why has it charge? Because you didn't understand. It's too hard to fathom. Why would a person be so sour, right? The mind gets puzzled in it. All right, good. So, at the end of the day, you had 9 pluses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you have 1 big minus. Good. All right, now you go home. You go home and you talk to your partner. What is one thing that for sure you're going to mention to your partner about your work? What is the one thing for sure about your day at work that you will mention to your partner? You got 9 compliments, you got 1 bad experience. Exactly. Exactly. What does that tell you? You're gonna talk about the bad experience, the negative experience, the complaint. What does it tell you guys? It tells you we actually get stuck in these negative things. Your attention is still on it. This is what we mean. This is what we mean by introversion. Intro means like you are stuck in that. You're absolutely stuck in that. Like I said, by the end of the evening, I'm going to give you a method that will help you to actually get out of that crap. Now, because we got 1 bad experience here, but then when we examine the mind a bit further, we got a whole lot more. And that whole lot more is just like bad news stacking up. Yeah, pulling all your energy and your mood down, just like with the mailbox. Good news up, bad news down. Right? All that stuff just brings you down. And we want to get up. So the whole idea is we wipe that out quickly. we want extraversion. So extraversion is just looking outside. It's looking at things. Now you see why, for example, allow me to click that away. Now you see, for example, why it is so important to take a walk, to look at things, because you're preventing yourself from looking on to the inside of your mind. Yeah? Cool. My computer is really obnoxious here. Good, hang on. I think I got it. Yeah, good. So the reason that taking a walk works is that you get more calm. You become more at ease. You find out that the environment is no longer as threatening as they exist, as they have been accumulated in your mind. Your mind tries to tell you it's all a big threat. You walk outside and you look, you find out it's actually quite okay. All right, now, let me see what is the time, 45. I'm going to give you another thing that you can actually do. And that is tip number 3. So, knock off the things that upset you. It's a very simple one. I hope you guys are writing this down, taking a walk. Don't read the news or watch the news. So what's number 1? The news. Number 2, taking a walk, looking at things. Number 3, knock off the stuff that makes you upset. Now, you can ask yourself, I'll give you a signal. You can ask yourself, are there any people in my environment that actually make me upset? Way back when I was married, and I would go and see certain people, and then come back after the weekend, and my wife would tell me, Eric, always when you see those 2 people, you come back in a different mood. And it seems like you need to recover like a week or 2 weeks to be yourself again. She observed that. In other words, she said, why don't you knock it off? Why don't you stop talking to these people? In other words, you can actually have a look. It's okay, well, family ties, social ties, work. Are there actually people that make me feel upset? That whenever I have a conversation with them, they make me feel worse. Okay, good. So you can actually make a list and say, you know what, I'm just not going to talk to them for a while and see what happens. Very simple to do. All right, now, you may have activities that could also make you feel upset, right? Or which leads to upsetting kind of situations. It could be that you're idling, for example, and you're not happy at all with that. You're idling, but you don't want to idle. Actually, you want to do something. That's going to be the next tip there coming in. It might be that you're overspending, right? It might be that you're drinking. It might be that you're gambling, right? It might be that you're watching too much TV. In other words, just knock off the things that you know that you shouldn't be doing. Knock off those things that cause you to be upset. I'm just going to give you a little picture here, so you'll have a bit of reality. Yeah. But you can understand this guy is going to a bar, right? And he might actually come to realize, hey, I'm probably better off spending time with my kid than hanging out in the bar with my friends, right? Even my wife might be grateful if I do so. Yeah. So there are certain activities that leave you feeling worse. You can actually make a list and say, you know what, I'm just not going to do that for a while. All that is that stress, yeah? That those activities are against your survival. You keep that in mind, yeah? It's this pressure. These activities will lead to more and more succumbing, where actually your purpose is to survive, right? So you try to knock off the stuff that lead to succumbing. Good. All right. Now here's a very good one, which is all about confronting. And we can take the picture away again. So confronting. Let me write that word down. Confront. Let's say here we have you, and there is your boss. Now you'll find in many cases with many people, they have a difficulty to confront the boss. What do we mean by confront? We mean actually to look at a person, or to look at an object, or to look at a situation without flinching, without getting nervous, without going into anxiety and discomfort. So when we confront, actually what we do is just in all calmness, we look. We look, we observe with the intention to just be there and just look. Just be there, just look. There's a boss there. A lot of people will already get stress, butterfly feelings. They haven't even really looked. They're going straight into this introversion, past experiences with bosses that they can't figure out at that moment. Having bad thoughts, oh my God, my boss might do something. They're not looking. So to confront is actually the ability to simply look without having the discomfort. Right? Like I said at the beginning of the evening, we do webinars on the mind, and actually you will start to understand where that negative feeling, that uncomfortable feeling, that stress really comes from, when it comes from the mind. Yeah. But tonight I just wanted to give you some very, very simple tips that you can do. So here's the thing. There's always something that you can confront. Now let's say we make a whole list of things which are not in order in your life. Maybe certain bills didn't get paid. Maybe some bank statements have not been looked at. Maybe the landlord has not been spoken to. Maybe the house itself is a mess. Maybe your pair of shoes needs to go to the shoemaker. You can actually, in other words, you can actually make a whole list of things that need to be done. In other words, that's a list of things that you need to confront. Right? So let me just read from a paper here. So there's always something in a person's life that he can confront. Confront means to easily face someone or something without avoiding him or it. And here's the kicker. If a person can confront some difficulty or part of it, he can do something about it. In other words, if you can confront something, you can also do something about it. Let's say you got a flat tire. A lot of people say, oh my God, that's a lot of work. A flat tire on my bike or motorbike or the car. Whew, I can't really confront that. But if you can confront it, just look at it without getting all the nervousness and stress and what have you, just confront it. That means you can also do something about it. And that's actually a very workable principle. If you can confront it, you can also do. Now, conversely, if you cannot confront it, well, it's quite obvious that you cannot do. But if you can confront, you can do something about it. And here is a very, very workable principle. Yeah. Maybe, Pavel, you can actually put the next picture up. Well, so here we got the lady. She lives in the house, and it's just a pile of junk there, right? And it's a big mess, right? So now she actually has to start confronting that mess. And so is life. You know, it can be messy. Yeah? We're just here to play that game, because if there was nothing there in the first place, well, everything would be boring. So we're getting some kind of sensation out of it by playing that game that's called life. Yeah, that means that we need to confront things, but when we do so, we also get more able. So there's some satisfaction in there. Now, what is the trick here? What is the trick here? That lady obviously needs to handle the situation. So basically what you can do, this is the tip. Yeah, maybe you want to write that down. This is the tip. So write down all the problems that you have. Just make a list out of it. Let's see if we can do that here. So you make a list of all the problems that you have, which is all unfinished actions. It's a whole bunch of unfinished actions, just like the house that needs to be cleaned up. It's just an unfinished actions. So all the problems that you need to handle, in other words. Now we're gonna write all these problems down that we have, and then we're gonna confront the easiest one. We're just gonna take the easiest one. So you got a whole bunch of problems, you know, and they range from very hard to do to quite doable. But you made yourself a list. So, oh my God, I need to call my dad, and I need to make up with him. I need to apologize, right? I need to write a letter to my friend that I have not spoken to in half a year, and I know he's been waiting for my communication, and I just felt so bad that I never talked to him. And actually, I need to sit down with my boss, because I need to find a way to earn some more money. Whatever the problem is, the problem is, you're gonna find out something really, really, really interesting. You're gonna say, okay, you know, this problem here, that's gonna be the number one that I'm going to handle. And then this one here is the next easiest one. I'm going to handle that next. Now, why is it such a problem? Because you're still looking inward. You're still introverted. Now you're actually going to handle that problem. You're going to confront it. You're going to tackle it. Now you're actually going to force yourself to look at something and actually get going with it. Just like taking a walk, force yourself to look outside, not contemplate on what's going on in your mind, but force yourself to look outside. Now you're actually going to handle these problems by forcing yourself to do that. When you do that, you're going to make that transition from being introverted to extroverted, and as a result, your emotional state is going to come up. When that emotional state is going to come up, it tells you you're less introvert, you're more extrovert, and you can confront bigger things. You like that trick? And yes, Sarah, that list would also include health. Absolutely. So now, just curious if you got that last part. You got that last part that I just explained, the introversion, extroversion, confronting part. Did you get it? All right, Sarah. So, for sure, we're gonna explain that again. Yeah, we have a few more minutes. So, when we have a bad day, we have a tendency to just go around and think of all the bad stuff. We don't have to do that with our eyes closed, but it soaks your attention. Yeah, it takes your attention and it makes you feel tired. That is introversion. You're looking inside. Meaning you're looking by looking inside, you basically mean you're looking back, you're looking in your memories, you're going over the memories, and these bad experiences have a tendency to pull you down, to take away your energy. And it makes you feel sluggish, and you go into idling, and not doing much, and you just feel like you want to sleep, and so on. And these are all symptoms that you're introverted. Yeah. And in a very, very dramatic case, when a person is really introverted, you do this in front of his face, he doesn't even see your hands. Yeah. Apparently he's got his eyes wide open, looking at something. He's not. He's looking inside. That's introversion. He doesn't even see your hands. Yeah. That's an extreme case of introversion. Yeah. But now, going through the daily grind and all the upsets and troubles that life is giving you, it keeps people introverted. Right. So we don't want to be introverted because that's too much stress. It's just pushing us down. We want to survive, not succumb. So now we're going to make a list of problems that we have. We can make a full list of all kinds of problems. Right? And there's some problems that are more easy to solve. Some problems are a bit more harder to solve. Some problems might even be difficult. So we write them all down. So I got to call this person. I got to make an appointment with that person. Now I got to make an arrangement with this person. I need to do a negotiation with that person. I need to bring the car to the garage. I need to borrow some money from Uncle Joe. And one after another, you all write them down. Then you're actually going to put for yourself, you're going to put a sequence there. It's okay. Which one is the easiest that I can confront, that I can actually look at without flinching, without feeling uncomfortable? What is that thing there that I could just feel like, oh, there's nothing to it. I can do that right now. Okay. So you make that your number one and you actually get started. Maybe you can list out the number two, number three. So, but I'm going to start with number one, number two. These are easy things. So you take that first problem, yeah, and you confront that situation. Maybe it's just cleaning the house. What most of you have seen is that when your house is a mess, you find it quite hard to confront. So, oh my God, it's too much. And then you're cleaning it up. What happens? You feel better. You feel better because you came out of the extrovert. You started to look at things. You started to become more in present time. Here you were in the past. So, when you're in the past, your emotions pull you down. Things become a bit gloomy. And when you actually start to handle life, just by confronting life, your emotional state comes up. You start to feel better. Yeah. So that's the other side of going up and down. Yeah. As long as you keep your eyes on things that keep you busy and you accomplish things, you're going to start doing better. That's the extroversion part, but also confronting. Look at things knowing you can handle it. When you can confront it, when you can actually observe it without flinching, without going into some kind of discomfort, that means you can actually do something. That's all it means. You do something and your emotional state is getting better. I hope it's a bit more clear now. Okay, now let me see. Other. Okay, good. So Raju, problems tend to be intertwined. Yeah. How to sort them out. Yeah. Which is the cause of which? All right, good. Now. So you got it, Sarah. Yeah. All right. Much clearer. Thanks. You're welcome. That's great. Happy with that. All right. So yes, problems do become intertwined. This is, however, a very good tip, a very easy thing to do. The first thing about confronting itself is actually a communication with it. Now, if you write something down, that's already the first step in communication. Let's say you need to handle your neighbor because he's playing music loud in the night and it keeps you awake. And it's been going on for such a long time, and your neighbor is grumpy that you felt like there's nothing I can do about it. So you succumb. You don't survive. You succumb to it, right? That's not good for your survival. All right. So you put that problem on the list. I have to handle my neighbor. All right. Now, that is the first tip, the first step, actually, in communicating about it, even for yourself. It's the first time in months that you said to yourself, you know what? I need to confront this. I need to do something about it. This has been going on for months. I've not been able to sleep for months. I need to do something about this. So now actually you said to yourself, okay, I'm going to confront it. I'm going to do something about it. Yeah, I'm just going to look at that situation. All right, now, maybe you have other things on that list. And you might say, oh, I'm by far not ready to handle my neighbor. I'm not ready for that yet. So, but if you would do some other tasks, and while you accomplish, because that's the key thing, while you do some other tasks and you accomplish, you will notice that your energy and your emotion starts to come up more and more and more and more. At some point you feel like, you know what? I did so much, I think I can even handle the neighbor. And that's basically the whole trick of the list. You confront, you handle things in a sequence that you feel comfortable with, and you accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, and things gradually start to go better. Yeah? I hope that explains it a little bit. Now, okay, I want to, feeling isolated and my mood is low. Is that 2 problems or actually 1? Okay, good. That is a good question. I'm actually going to give you tip number 5 after we finish with a quote. Yeah, I'm going to give you a quote. I need something to drink myself. Problem number 1 tonight, I think. It's probably a dad joke, right? Anyway, I'm not good at jokes. I'm good at laughing about jokes. All right, good. So I want to give you a quote, which is this one. Yeah, as long as politicians, weapons manufacturers, and the media profit from crime, war, and bad news, there will continue to be those who spread confusion and upset. But this is the created world. This is not the real world. Behind all the disturbance, there exists a calmer environment. It is one in which people can live and feel better. It is a world where people do heroic deeds and neighbors help each other. It is a world where people overcome huge odds to achieve extraordinary things. I find that a very powerful quote. This comes from L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of Dianetics and Scientology. And it gives you his viewpoint on the creation of the dangerous environment. Yeah, and the whole trick is not to fall for it. It is a created environment. Yeah. So tonight I was actually giving you some tips And I want to end up with something that you can do to help yourself to move away from all the negativity that you have been building up over the years. And kind of like eliminate that negativity out of your system. In other words, all that stuff that's been pulling you down and that kept your attention at it. By doing processes so there are certain processes that you can do, just like remember the mailbox, the positive news, the bad news, right? One is up, the other one is down, up, down, right? Now, there's a technique that will help you to kind of like lessen the effect of the downer side and up the effect, make stronger the positivity in you. And it's done by this book, which is called Self-Analysis. It's an amazing book. It's a book that has processes that you can do on you, on yourself, to make yourself more intelligent, more lively, more energetic, even healthier if you wish. Yeah. And in a condition where you actually can accomplish more. It's a marvelous book. I've had tremendous successes with it. It's something, it holds processes that you can do by yourself. You can also do it with a good friend and do these processes together. They're amazing. I've literally saved lives with the processes in this book. And I'm not joking, I'm very serious right now. I've literally saved people's lives, and I've seen huge turnarounds from depressions and very, very negative state of minds to swift recoveries into feeling so much better. Mr. Hubbard himself called it the most underrated book that he actually wrote. Yeah? So my colleague is going to put a description in the link for you guys. I believe it comes with free shipping tonight. It's a 17 euro book, and it's a life-changing book. And you can actually have it in probably like 50 languages. You could have it in German, you could have it in English, you could have it in Zulu, and Farsi, I don't know, Italian, Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese, you name it, it's all there. 50 different languages. Have a look. So maybe that book is something for you guys. I always say this is for people who actually want more. If you want to have more out of life, if you want to stop fooling around, you know, if you're fed up with not having success in your life, you want more, you want to accomplish more, that's a perfect starter. It's a very easy, it's a very easy to read book. Here, for example, it goes on the laws of survival and abundance. Quite simple to read. What is the technique? All right. So you have basically, essentially, you have processes, you got lists with questions in the book, processes. And these are specific processes to improve your reaction time, for example, or to improve your memory, right? Or to handle a negative state of mind, or to handle having been in touch with a narcissistic individual that has been caving you in, right? The specific lists that will handle the periods of charge that have been pulling you down. And in the back of the book, you will actually find a disc to help you out to actually move around while you are working with it. So basically the whole description is in there. Now, the technique is basically you get the question from the book. You look in your mind for the answer. And actually by doing that process, you're clearing things up. You can also do it together with somebody else. You ask each other the questions, right? So one takes the role of the person who's asking questions. The other one takes the role of the person who's looking and answering. That will be called auditing. So auditing is a process of listening and asking questions. Yeah, this is just very, very effective. That's how I see it. Okay. Any more questions? I'm actually starting to get a dry throat, guys. So I think I have problem number 2 here, but that's probably easy to handle. I shouldn't take it too long on the webinar. We've already exceeded the time. What we can do, guys, is Pavel can actually write down my WhatsApp number in the chat, just in case if you have any personal questions for me. I'm always willing to answer any kind of question. I'm always happy to hear from you. All right, there it is. So that's an Irish number, plus 353 89 486 2918. Eric is my name. All right. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it somewhat today. I hope you found the information valuable. I hope it's useful to some extent. If you have any questions, please let me know. And once again, my firm recommendation is always start with knowledge, get some knowledge, because a mechanic doesn't have any headaches when he's got a problem with his car. We, as non-mechanics, we do get headaches and stress and all these things because we don't know anything about cars. And same thing applies to life. When you know life, when you know more about it, that's going to help you with a lot of headaches and other worries and stresses that you now don't need to have anymore. All right? All right, Sarah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for taking the time to this webinar. Yes, Sarah, you're most welcome. All right, I look forward to see you again. Guys, next week is the narcissistic individual. I know from experience, people absolutely love that content. So be there next week. I look forward to see you again. For now, have a great, thank you guys. Yeah, have a great rest of the evening. It's been my pleasure talking to you. All right, all these compliments, you see, maybe I'm still waiting for that 10th negative one, remember? But I see you guys are all positive. That's great. All right, guys. So once again, it's been great having you here. It's a wonderful webinar to do this together. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again soon. Have a great rest of the evening.